Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are at in the world today. I am here live with Joe, who has his first book upcoming. Welcome, Joe. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am terrific. So let's get right into it. The next 24 authors in 12 hours is going to be October 11th, exactly 1 month today. Today is September 11th. And just one thing I do want to honor is the September 11th. This is always a time, I think, to just kind of reflect on what's happened in the world. It was definitely something that when September 11th, I remember it so clearly. And now we have generations who are growing up where, this is not something they remember, or they might even have been born after. So, important day in U.S. history and in world history. And Joe, we're going to go right into talking about your book. And your book is upcoming. So, when is your book going to be available? Let's start with that.
It'll be available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon. Right now, it's November 5th. That's I'm going to try to stick to that if at all possible.
It's always hard. The dates for the book end up sliding. I was supposed to have my last book out July 4th. It ended up coming out about end of July. So those things definitely happen. And let's tell the audience why should they pick up this book? What is going to hook them?
Well, I'm hoping the main character is going to be the biggest hook. I trusted a 10-year-old little girl to carry a very heavy weighted story. It's very emotionally charged. And it's not just about the emotions. There's elements of some horror and there's some action in there as well. But I really think that Grace Connors is the main hook.
Wonderful. So let's give our audience a bit of a teaser. What is the title for your book, and knowing that this is a working title and could change before the final version comes out?
It is The Wraith of Magdalena, and most likely that won't change.
That is a great working title. And for those of you who are following on the website or on any of my pages, the next 24 authors in 12 hours is going to be focused on everything dark, scary, crime, thrillers, mystery, everything that goes bump in the night, right? And so this is definitely one of those kind of books. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what inspired your work, Joe?
Well, what really inspired me, I had this kind of idea of this one scene. I call it the abandoned cottage scene that's in the novel. And I think that happens within the first 3 or 4 chapters. But I really wanted to write a story of redemption. And in this scene, I had this idea of someone, it wasn't Grace at first, but someone was abandoned, alone. They felt unloved, they felt unwanted, and they really were carrying this guilt as well about some previous actions that they had done. And in the midst of all that and all the distrust going on in their mind, there comes someone into that cottage and they do the exact opposite of what they expect them to do. And that's show them love, empathy, and trust.
Oh, wow. Love, empathy, and trust. Such important and timely topics with things going on in the world today. Let's kind of pull that thread a bit on what inspired you. So a lot of times we get those ideas and we're like, that would make a great book. And then that's the end of it. How did you persevere to actually write your thoughts on the paper and get this book to at least now what is the draft phase?
Well, interestingly enough, this wasn't supposed to be a book. I wrote it at first as kind of like a short story, and I just had it titled Child once I decided I wanted the main character to be around 10 years old. And Grace just kind of came to life and kind of took over the story, and she just demanded more than a short story. And so eventually it became a novel.
That is a great point. So I was going to ask you if you plot it all out first, or if you're kind of one of those pantsers who fly by the seat of your pants. And sounds like it definitely, but this was a situation where your character like hijacked your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of the time with my writing style, it is kind of a hybrid. All of my stuff that I've written after this has been much more structured. But with this one, like I said, it started as a short story, and then Grace just kind of came to life and it evolved from there. I did go through a process when it did start expanding of kind of structuring it a little bit and moving some things around. But this one was largely by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. In my head right now, I'm kind of have two books going on. I've been not writing as much as I should. And sometimes I feel like when I'm doing something else, the characters are actually like, hey, what are you doing? Like you're ignoring us. And I'm like, okay, I should go write, you know. And so it's amazing how those characters really become alive to you as an author. And
Mhm.
as somebody who's writing in this kind of dark mystery kind of, you know, as we move into October and everything's scary, how does it impact your life to have part of your brain living in this kind of very dark place?
It's scary sometimes, but I think it's something that us as humans, I think we really experience that a lot. I think a lot of the themes and emotions in the book is something that is just part of human nature and the human experience. It's something that we can all relate to.
I think so. And so when a reader picks up your book and they read this book, what do you want a reader to take away?
Well, really, I think the main things is love and empathy. I think that's the underlying theme. And I also hope that they can observe the trauma and the weight that Grace carries and then how she carries it. And the fact that um, through her mentor, Evan, in the book, she really starts to realize that she has a choice. She can become something greater or she can go down the path that she thinks she was destined to go down.
You know, that's a great point is choices, right? And making sure
Mhm.
that that character has the ability where you could see them going down a different path.
Mhm.
How do you balance that with the need that you have a child that is your main character, with kind of protecting that child and honoring the fact that, you know, this is a very delicate situation that you're writing about?
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, for sure. But really, so like I've been telling people, this book it contains a love story, but it's not the love story you would expect. It's not the romantic kind. It's not a teenage romance or anything like that. It's really the love story between a father and daughter. And it's not even a biological love story either. It's just one that it's two people who were placed in very dire and unfortunate circumstances, and they deeply care for each other and they learn to get along and trust each other. And eventually they start putting each other's best interest first.
I know, Joe, you just touched something very deep to my heart, and it's actually this blog post I was working on earlier before we came on the show about this whole concept of the agape love, of the love that you have for the universe, and then the love that you have also of like that familiar love. Because so
Mhm.
often people hear the word love and they're going straight down that romance path, and I think that as human beings we miss out on that opportunity so much to experience these other forms of love because romance sort of overshadows it. And so I
Mhm.
really think that's amazing that you're bringing this out in your book and something that that you have your characters exploring because we need more books that explore these different types of loves and don't go straight down into romance. And I was very happy when you're like, there's no teenage. I was like, I'm hoping a 10-year-old is not getting into that kind of relationship.
Right. Yeah.
That could make it a very different kind of dark horror story. So, who
Yeah.
is your intended audience for this book?
Um, I'm thinking probably anyone from 15 and up would probably really enjoy the story. And the reason I say that is because there is some moments that are a little more dark, but overall it's a very clean story. The violence that is in it is only there when I felt like it really needed to be. And there's no sex scenes, there's no cursing, there's nothing like that. So it really is a book for almost anybody.
Okay, so definitely that kind of not a 10-year-old reading it though.
Yeah. Yeah, there might be a few things in there that might be a little bit more advanced for that.
Yeah, and so that's definitely something for parents to be aware of. I think a lot of times people see a child on the cover and they just think, "Oh, this is okay."
Mhm.
Last month, I interviewed Wandra. She had this amazing book called "Evil Was a Child Once," and you can
Right.
just imagine, even though it's about a child who's named Evil with this
Mhm.
magical library, it is still a very, very dark place. And I think
Right.
that making sure that we make things age appropriate, that people don't see the cover. So let's talk a little bit about the writing process. once you finish as an author, and so this is definitely geared towards other authors out there, but as well as readers to kind of know the behind the scenes, how does this work? It
Right.
is a journey. You think, okay, I wrote my book, woohoo, but then the editing and the book covers, all these things happen. How has that process been for you, Joe?
The writing process was really fun, and exciting, and sometimes even surprising. But once I crossed that threshold, honestly, the decision to finally publish, I mean, getting over that fear and all that kind of stuff that comes along with that was one thing. But then I guess for me, I didn't realize how big of a process it actually was, because editing, multiple rounds of editing, and all the different things you got to look for. Then there's formatting, there's marketing, book cover design. There's just so much that goes into it that I guess I never really thought of before.
Yeah, and I think that that's something to be aware of. We haven't touched on marketing yet, and if you look at this interview, this is kind of the part of the kickoff for for your book.
Mhm.
Hopefully, you can reshare this with some clips and get your links and stuff out there as you get closer to the release date. Because for those of you not aware, for indie authors, for us, it is all about word of mouth. It's all about sharing, resharing. Two of the best things that you can do for an author is one, leave a review. If you like your book, even if you don't like the book, leave a review. Even a bad review is better than no review. And in addition to that, it is share with your friends, tell everybody. And it's always amazing to me when people are actually like, oh, I read your book. And I'm like, how did you even know I wrote a book? And somebody will say, oh, my friend's cousin's John. And it's kind of cool, like when that actually happens. So,
Mhm.
definitely if you know someone's an author, help them out. The number one thing we want for Christmas is book reviews, or in this case for Halloween, like definitely write those book reviews for your fellow authors. The other thing that you can do is like, comment, and share on their pages. Joe, your page is fairly new. I have your Facebook page shared out now in our comments. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're sharing in the background here on your different social media platforms about your book and your writing journeys?
Sure. So I've been sharing some quotes and stuff from the novel. I've been introducing some of the main characters. I commissioned a really talented sketch artist from Fiverr who has been amazing at taking my written works and transforming it into, like, okay, that's what I pictured in my mind. And so I've been sharing some of that stuff, but I'm also going to be doing some contests and giveaways, not just for signed books, maybe for some other stuff as well, to increase followers and things like that. But and really, I want to have a community discussion and that kind of thing. Um, and then as far as the name Inkfish Joe goes, I'm a writer and I'm also into martial arts, and so that's kind of how I got that title for my author page. And I'm hoping, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, but I'm hoping at some point to write a nonfiction book that'll be a lot more centered in the martial arts realm of things.
So why don't we go into that? What are your future projects? You have this new book coming out, kind of a dark kind of fantasy, a little bit into horror kind of level. But I'm also a multi-genre author, so I definitely appreciate that, writing it in multiple genres. And how do you plan on balancing that?
Well, one thing that's really going to help me personally, I think, is that it took me so long from finishing writing this story. It took me so long to get to the point where I was like brave enough to publish, that I wrote several other things along the way that I'm going to go back and tweak and fix up and hopefully publish. But right now, my main focus is Wraith and Magdalena. But next year, I'm hoping I can publish 2 books. I'm hoping to do my first nonfiction. I'm hoping to do a second young adult novel. And then lastly, I would also say that I don't think Grace's story is done. I have a pretty good skeleton structure for a sequel already made, and I'm still kind of fleshing that out as I go.
So lots of future works, future books for you. That's
Mhm.
very exciting. I'm a big fan of sequels. I think that that's an important part of the journey, and also spinoffs. I think
Yeah.
that can be super fun, is to take a character where you're like, oh, they have this backstory, things like that.
Mhm.
You mentioned giveaways. Is there anything that you have upcoming that you want your audience to know about?
So nothing's planned officially yet, but I do know. Well, I guess there's one thing I do have for my ARC readers. I am going to be once reviews are published after the first 7 days of launch, I'm going to be randomly selecting one of my ARC readers, and they're going to get a free signed paperback copy of the book.
And Joe, let's talk about what ARC readers are for those who might not be familiar.
Okay.
So go ahead and describe what your ARC reading process is. And for those who might not know, your ARC readers or your advanced reader copies that you get out there. But Joe, how is your ARC process going to work for your readers if somebody was interested in participating?
Right. So I started my first wave of ARC readers, which I've done with people that are in my immediate network that I know that like to read or like this kind of thing. And then I have branched out into some author groups on Facebook. I've recruited a few people that way. And then there's some sites for that, like Booksprout is one of them. And I'm going to be using those hopefully by the end of this month to kind of get that out there as well for people. But really what I'm personally looking for is just people who, if they're interested in it, I am more than happy to give away a free copy if it means that they'll enjoy it, they'll read it, and they'll give an honest review. Because like you said earlier, even the bad reviews are, going to be beneficial.
Yeah, reviews are definitely the lifeblood, and want to make sure that we're promoting the reviews. Once Joe has this information out, I'll make sure I share it out on my website as well as in my newsletter. I want to make sure I put this out for everybody so that you have it. If you are interested in 24 authors in 12 hours, please subscribe, please follow us on our website. And also, I do writing, coaching, and consulting, as well as monthly workshops, both on using AI for your research and using AI as your virtual writer circle. If anybody is interested in any of those services, definitely hook me up. And 24 authors in 12 hours, as well as with these off takes of the author's cut. These are 100% free. This is an author helping author community. And so I definitely want to make sure people are aware of it. And if you want, please like our merch and purchase our merch. We have coffee cups and wine glasses and beer glasses that came from popular demand from the last segment we had where people said we want beer glasses. So, if there's merch that you want that we don't have, let me know and we can go ahead and put that on. And you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. So please make sure that you are liking us and following us to hear all these things. And as Joe gets closer to publishing, we are going to make sure that we're getting all of that information out there. And I want to go back to your book jacket a little bit. Do you have the final cover ready? Or are you still kind of in the process with a bit of a working draft?
So yeah, it's actually ready. I have one with me. It'll be mirrored, but this is going to be the book cover.
Oh, nice. That is absolutely wonderful. So everybody can kind of see what that looks like. You get a little bit of a teaser of that. And definitely follow Joe so that you can follow him on his journey of getting closer to the publication date. And looking around, if there's any questions from the audience, we always want to include you, give you time to ask those questions, because it's always exciting to get to meet new authors as well as some of your favorite authors, and just getting this going, as well as a reminder to everybody, if you're just tuning in, October 11th is our next 24 authors in 12 hours. And we are focused October, spooky, scary, horror, crime, all things that go bump in the night. And so, Joe, with that theme, is there any particular scene, without giving too much away, that you think kind of depicts that kind of October spookiness?
Yeah, definitely. So the first one that comes to my mind is still pretty early on in the story, but so Grace has been genetically manipulated through her time in captivity, and she has certain abilities of the mind, like telekinesis and stuff. One of her most creepy powers for weaker-minded individuals, she can kind of drain some of their life force from them, and they kind of turn into like a mindless, zombified puppet that she can control.
That is always fun. Zombies added in, not the brain-eating kind, but the manipulative, controlled telekinesis kind. So definitely take a look at Joe's book when it comes out. And Joe, any last words, any last thoughts before we wrap up this segment?
just that if someone does decide to pick up a copy of my book, I'll be greatly honored, and I love and look forward to hearing from people. And I hope that not only does my book spread, but I also hope that this podcast continues to spread as well, because I find it extremely helpful.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate having you here today, and appreciate all of you watching now and in the future. Looking forward to your comments. And if you do have any comments or questions, you can reach out to Joe directly on his socials, or you can reach out to me and I'll reach back out to Joe. Everyone have a great day. It is September 11th. I want to take that moment to honor the gravity of today and the history of today, while also recognizing we continue to move forward, and appreciate all of you being out there and being great readers and listeners. Have a great day.